The wrench slipped from my oil-slicked fingers and clattered against the concrete floor of the garage, echoing like a gunshot in the dead of night. I stared at Nathaniel's face, illuminated by the harsh fluorescent buzz overhead. His eyes, those damn piercing blue eyes, wide with a betrayal I never saw coming. "Elliot," he whispered, voice cracking like thunder on the horizon. "You were supposed to be my safe harbor, not the storm that drowns me." Rain hammered the tin roof of the auto shop like 1,000 accusatory fingers, each drop a reminder of the fragile empire I'd built on half-truths and stolen glances. I'd driven into this rundown Seattle suburb 2 years ago, fleeing the suffocating grip of my family's expectations back in Boise, convinced that a busted radiator was the worst of my problems. But as Nathaniel's shadow loomed in the doorway, his flannel shirt clinging wetly to his frame, I realized the real breakdown had been mine all along, piece by jagged piece. I wiped my hands on a rag that smelled of grease and regret, forcing a smile that didn't reach my eyes. "What brings you here at this hour, Nate?" Carr acting up again. It was a lame deflection, the kind I'd mastered in boardrooms and barstools alike. But with him, it always crumbled like dry asphalt under summer heat. He stepped inside, water pooling at his boots, and for a moment, the world narrowed to just us. The hum of the fluorescent lights, the distant wail of a siren slicing through the storm. Nathaniel Hayes had been my anchor since that first fated drop-off, the mechanic who'd fixed more than my Chevy's transmission that rainy October afternoon. Tall, with calloused hands that spoke of honest labor and a laugh that could thaw the iciest Pacific Northwest gloom. He'd become the one constant in my nomadic life. We'd met when I rolled into his shop, engine smoking like a bad metaphor for my unraveling marriage. Ex-wife, actually, though the divorce papers still felt like fresh wounds. Back then, I'd been Elliot Harper, 32-year-old corporate drone, fresh off a cross-country drive to escape the wreckage of a life scripted by everyone but me. Boise had been all picket fences and Sunday potlucks, where being the golden boy meant burying your truths under layers of plaid and pretense. I'd married Sarah because it was expected, college sweetheart, stable job at the bank, whispers of kids on the horizon. But the night she found the crumpled note in my jacket pocket, a scribbled confession from a one-night stand in Portland, everything splintered. "You're not the man I thought you were," she'd said, and damn if she wasn't right. So I'd fled west, chasing the myth of reinvention in Seattle's shadow. The city promised fog-shrouded anonymity, craft breweries where secrets dissolved in IPAs, and streets alive with possibility. My Chevy, a '98 Silverado I'd inherited from my dad, had other ideas. It wheezed to a halt 3 miles from Nathaniel's shop, forcing me to limp the rest of the way on foot, cursing the universe for its impeccable timing. The sign above the bay doors read, "Hayes Auto Repair. We fix what breaks." And I'd laughed bitterly at the irony as I pushed through the glass door, bell jingling like a bad omen. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of motor oil and stale coffee, shelves lined with rusted tools that looked like relics from a bygone America. And there he was, Nathaniel, bent over a workbench, sleeves rolled up to reveal forearms corded with muscle from years of wrenching engines and wrestling life. "Can I help you?" he'd asked, straightening up with a rag over his shoulder, his voice carrying that easy Pacific Northwest drawl, part surfer, part lumberjack. I explained the overheating, the sputtering, the way it felt like my whole damn life was overheating too. He nodded, eyes crinkling at the corners in a way that made my stomach flip, unbidden and unwelcome. "Sounds like a radiator flush. Leave her with me overnight. I'll have her purring by morning." That her hung in the air, casual and gendered like the trucks he fixed, and I found myself lingering by the counter, watching as he jotted notes on a grease-stained pad. We talked small stuff at first. Seahawks game, the relentless rain, how Seattle's traffic could choke a saint. By the time I handed over the keys, the conversation had veered into safer waters. His decade in the Marines, my vague consulting gig that kept me glued to a laptop in coffee shops. "You staying local?" he'd asked, glancing up with those eyes that seemed to see straight through the armor I'd worn since high school. "Airbnb in Capitol Hill for now. Testing the waters." It was the truth or close enough. I'd sublet a shoebox apartment overlooking the bustling streets, where rainbow flags fluttered from balconies like defiant promises. He grinned, handing me a business card with his number scrawled on the back. Call if you need a ride back, or just company. That night, as rain lashed my window and I lay awake scrolling job listings, I punched in the number. Not for a ride. For the what if that had been gnawing at me since Boise. We met at a dive bar off Pike Street, the kind with peanut shells on the floor and jukebox tunes from Springsteen to Chapel Roan. Beers turned to shots, stories to confessions. He spoke of coming out in the barracks, the fistfights and quiet support from unlikely brothers in arms. I admitted the marriage, the note, the way I'd always known but never acted. You're braver than you think, Elliot, he'd said, his hand brushing mine across the scarred wooden table. Takes guts to drive into the unknown. By closing time, we were stumbling into the rain, laughing as we ducked under a shared umbrella that did nothing against the deluge. At my door, he paused, water dripping from his lashes. This city's full of lessons. Stick around, you might learn something. I pulled him in, our kiss tasting of whiskey and possibility, the world outside fading to a distant roar. It was messy, urgent, but in that moment, it felt like salvation. The weeks blurred into months, a rhythm of stolen evenings and weekend hikes up to Rattlesnake Ledge, where the view of the Sound stretched like a promise. Nathaniel was everything Boise hadn't allowed. Unapologetic, tender in ways that scared me. He'd cook elk burgers on his rooftop grill, quoting Whitman under starless skies, his body fitting against mine like a missing gear slotting into place. I'd tease him about his endless rotation of flannel shirts. What? No room for color in that wardrobe? And he'd retaliate by dragging me to pride events, where I'd stand awkwardly amid the glitter and cheers, his hand steady in mine. But cracks formed early, subtle as hairline fractures in a windshield. My family called weekly, Dad's voice gruff with unspoken judgment. When you coming home, son? City's no place for a man like you. Mom sent care packages of jerky and Bible verses, the subtext clear as a Sunday sermon. And then there was work. Landing a remote gig with a tech firm meant stability, but the video calls demanded the old Elliot, the one who nodded along to heteronormative small talk without flinching. Nathaniel noticed. You're holding back, he'd say over breakfast tacos, his fork pausing mid-air. Like you're waiting for the other shoe to drop. I'm not. I'd lie, kissing his temple to deflect. Just adjusting. Truth was, fear was a tenacious bastard, rooted deep in Idaho soil. I'd built walls higher than the Cascades, convinced that one wrong move, one photo, one slip would summon the storm. So I compartmentalized. Nathaniel in the daylight hours, the shadows of my past locked away after dark. It was a Tuesday in March when the first real storm hit. I'd been at the shop helping with an oil change, our ritual grease under nails and classic rock blasting, when my phone buzzed. Sarah, we need to talk. In person. My stomach nodded. The divorce was all but finalized, but her tone carried the weight of unfinished business. Nathaniel caught my expression, wiping his hands. Everything okay? Yeah, just X stuff. I waved it off, but he pressed, gentle as always. Want me to come? Moral support. I hesitated, the word no forming like reflex. It's fine. Quick coffee. I'll call after. He nodded, but hurt flickered in his eyes, brief as a spark plug misfire. That should have been the warning light. Sarah met me at a neutral cafe in Fremont, her hair shorter, eyes harder than I remembered. I'm pregnant, she said, stirring her latte without meeting my gaze. Not yours, but complications. I need help with medical bills. And the house. The words landed like a fender bender, disorienting. We'd been separated 18 months. The math didn't lie, but the plea in her voice, raw, stripped of anger, tugged at the guilt I'd carried like spare parts in the trunk. How much? I asked, practical Elliot surfacing. She named a figure that drained my savings, but I nodded. Send the details. I'll wire it. As she left, hugging me awkwardly, a part of the old life clung like exhaust fumes. I didn't tell Nathaniel, not then. It felt like a loose thread, one pull from unraveling everything. But secrets have a way of overheating. 2 weeks later, during a rare weekend getaway to the Olympic Peninsula, we hiked the Hurricane Ridge Trail, the air crisp with pine and salt. At the summit, with the Olympics jagged against the horizon, he turned to me, backpack slung low. "Elliot, I love you, but I can't keep pretending this is easy for me." My heart stuttered. "What do you mean?" "The hiding. The friends at work events. I get it, your world's not ready. But mine is tired of the shadows." I reached for him, words tumbling out. "I'm trying, Nate. God, I'm trying." He pulled back, not angry, but resolute. "Try harder, or we're just delaying the crash." We made love that night in the tent, urgent and affirming, the canvas walls muffling our whispers. But dawn brought the echo of his words, a low rumble I couldn't ignore. Back in Seattle, I threw myself into gestures, introducing him to colleagues as my partner, posting a blurry trail selfie on Instagram with a heart emoji that felt like skywriting my soul. Dad's call that Sunday was predictably glacial. "What's this I see online? Some guy? Elliot, think about your future." "It's my life, Dad." I shot back, voice steady for the first time. "And Nathaniel's part of it." Silence, then a sigh like wind through evergreens. "Just don't break your mother's heart." I hung up, chest tight, and drove straight to the shop. Nathaniel was under a hood, humming along to Fleetwood Mac. I wrapped my arms around him from behind, chin on his shoulder. I told him about us. He turned, surprise melting into a grin that lit the dim bay. Yeah, no more half measures." For a while it held. We hosted barbecues on his balcony, friends from his circle, tattooed artists, fellow vets with stories etched in scars, mingling with my buttoned-up coworkers. Laughter filled the air, thick as summer fog, and in those moments, I glimpsed the life I'd chased across state lines. But betrayal brews in the quiet hours, fed by old habits. Sarah's bills mounted, unexpected tests, a specialist in Tacoma, and I dipped into our joint savings, the one Nathaniel and I had started for someday. A cabin in the woods. I rationalized it. A loan, not a theft. I'd replenish it. But when the bank statement arrived, digital and damning, it wasn't me who found it. Nathaniel did. He was waiting in my apartment when I got home from a late client call. The printout splayed on the coffee table like an autopsy report. "Care to explain?" I froze in the doorway, keys jangling. "Nate, it's not. Whose is it?" His voice was low, controlled, the kind that precedes an eruption. "Sarah. Medical stuff. I was going to tell you." The lie tasted like battery acid. I'd meant to, but fear, of his disappointment, of fracturing our fragile normalcy, had silenced me. He laughed, bitter and hollow. "So we build this us on trust and you go behind my back?" "For her. It's not like that. She's carrying a child, Nate. Alone. And I'm not worth the truth?" He stood, pacing the worn rug, hands raking through his hair. "I've given you everything, Elliot. My heart, my home. And you treat it like a goddamn side project." Words failed me, tangled in regret. "I love you. This doesn't change." "It changes everything." He grabbed his jacket, the door slamming like a verdict. The days that followed were a blur of unanswered texts and empty shop bays. I threw myself into work, crunching numbers until my eyes burned. But the silence was deafening. Friends mediated. His sister Jamie, a barista with a no-nonsense streak, cornered me at a coffee shop. "He's hurt, Bad. Give him space, but don't ghost." "I won't," I promised. But space stretched into weeks, the city turning hostile in its indifference. The climax hit on a Friday night in June, heat wave gripping Seattle like a grudge. I'd driven to the shop after hours, the Chevy's engine humming with nervous energy. Rain had returned, unseasonal and vicious, turning streets to rivers. I found him in the back lot, tinkering with a vintage Mustang under a tarp, radio blasting Tom Waits to drown the storm. "Nate." My voice cut through, tentative. He didn't turn, wrench twisting savagely. "Go home, Elliot. Please." We need to talk. The wrench clattered down. He faced me then, rain carving paths down his face, mirroring the tears I fought back. Talk? You mean lie some more? I stepped closer, the downpour soaking us both. I was wrong, scared, but I fixed it, paid her off, closed the account. It's just us now. His eyes searched mine, stormy as the sky. Just us? After you chose her ghost over me? It wasn't a choice. It was a mistake. One I'm owning. Thunder rolled, close and ominous. He closed the distance, hands fisting my shirt. Not in anger but desperation. I can't keep rebuilding from ruins, Elle. I love you too much for that. The kiss was salt and fury, rain mingling with sobs as we clung there, the world a watercolor smear. Then don't, I murmured against his lips. Let's build something new. No secrets. He pulled back, breath ragged. Promise. Swear on the Chevy. A ghost of a smile. That rust bucket? Ours now. We stumbled inside. The garage a sanctuary of steel and second chances. That night, wrapped in his arms on the worn couch in his office, I confessed it all. The Boise boy, the buried longings, the fear that love like ours was too bright to last. He listened, fingers tracing patterns on my back, his silence a balm. Forgive me, I whispered into the dark. Not yet, he said softly, but I'm willing to try. Summer unfurled in tentative blooms. We attended therapy, couple sessions in a sunlit office overlooking the Sound, where a soft-spoken counselor named Ravi unpacked our baggage with surgical kindness. I called my parents, video chat fraught with awkward pauses. But Mom's eventual, he sounds kind. Honey, cracked the ice. Dad grumbled, but sent a card for Nathaniel's birthday. Fix him up right. Nathaniel laughed over it, framing it beside his Marine discharge papers. Progress. We took the Chevy on a road trip east, looping through the Cascades, stopping at diners where waitresses called us fellas without batting an eye. In Spokane, near the Idaho border, I pulled over at a overlook, the plains stretching like forgiveness. This is home now, I said, hand in his. Wherever you are. He squeezed back. Damn right. Betrayal's scar lingered, a faint line on our map, but it taught us the terrain. Vulnerability as strength, truth as the sturdiest alloy. Seattle embraced us, its gray skies parting for rainbows literal and figurative. We bought a fixer-upper in Ballard, a craftsman with creaky floors and a yard for dogs someday. Maybe a mutt from the shelter named after Springsteen. One evening, as autumn leaves skittered across the pavement, we stood in the driveway, Nathaniel under the hood of the Chevy for its annual tune-up. She's running smooth, he announced, wiping his brow. I leaned against the fender, heart full. So are we. He straightened, pulling me close, the city lights twinkling like conspirators. In that moment, the lesson crystallized. Sometimes the breakdown leads to the breakthrough, and love, the real gritty kind, is the mechanic who gets you back on the road. But life, being the unpredictable engine it is, had one more twist. Months later, over Thanksgiving turkey at Jamie's, Nathaniel cleared his throat, ring box materializing from his pocket like a magic trick. Elliot Harper, you've taught me that wreckage can be redeemed. Marry me? The room erupted cheers, tears, clinking glasses, but my world narrowed to his hopeful gaze. Yes, I breathed, slipping the band on. Simple silver etched with our initials. 1,000 times, yes. As we kissed amid the chaos, family now extended beyond blood. I thought of that rainy night 2 years prior. I'd come seeking a fix for my car, but found the repair my soul had craved. In America's vast, flawed tapestry of open roads and hidden hearts, we'd woven our thread, resilient and true. And in the quiet after, as snow dusted the evergreens, I knew. The greatest lessons aren't learned in solitude, but in the collision of two lives, mended not despite the breaks, but because of them. The ring caught the firelight in Jamie's cramped dining room, a modest bungalow on the east side where the scent of sage stuffing and cranberry relish hung heavy as tradition. Nathaniel's proposal had landed like a perfectly timed gear shift, smooth, inevitable. Yet it left me reeling, the weight of forever settling on my finger like a vow etched in steel. Around the table, his sister hooped, her toddler clapping sticky hands, while our friends, diverse as Seattle's skyline, from queer activists to straight-laced engineers, raised glasses in a cacophony of toasts. To Elliot and Nate, may your love outlast any carburetor. I laughed, the sound foreign in my throat, choked with emotion I hadn't permitted in years. Nathaniel's hand found mine under the table, thumb tracing the band, grounding me. "You okay?" he murmured, voice low amid the din. "More than," I replied, squeezing back. But as plates clattered and stories flowed, Jamie's tale of Nathaniel's teenage rebellion, sneaking out to a drag show in Tacoma, I felt the undercurrent, the echo of our scars. Forgiveness was a process, not a punctuation mark, and holidays amplified every unresolved hum. That night, crashing on the pull-out couch in the guest room, we lay tangled in borrowed sheets, the house settling around us like a lullaby. "Think your folks will flip?" he asked, chin propped on my chest. I stared at the ceiling fan's lazy spin, shadows dancing like ghosts. Mom might cry happy tears. Dad, he'll grumble about government overreach on marriage, then send a check for the honeymoon. He chuckled, the vibration rumbling through me. Classic Harper. Silence fell, comfortable but laced with the unsaid. Boise loomed in my mind, a specter of starched collars and sidelong glances. I'd invited them virtually, Zoom turkey, a compromise, but Dad's "congrats, son" past the remote had been his version of blessing. Progress jagged as a timing belt. "Whatever happens," Nathaniel whispered, "we face it together, no more solo runs." I kissed his forehead, tasting salt and certainty. Deal. The drive back to Seattle the next day was a study in contrasts. Gray drizzle giving way to bursts of sun, the I-90 bridge arching over the sound like a promise. Nathaniel hummed along to the radio, Nirvana's About a Boy, ironic and fitting, while I fiddled with the ring, turning it like a talisman. We'd planned a courthouse wedding for spring, small and secular, followed by that cabin dream in the Olympics. No frills, just us and the mountains as witnesses. Work intruded midweek, a client crisis pulling me into marathon calls with the firm. Deadlines loomed for a merger pitch, numbers blurring into insomnia. Nathaniel adapted, leaving Tupperware of chili on the counter, notes tucked inside, fuel for the fire, love. But strain showed in small ways. My distracted kisses, his late nights at the shop chasing overtime for wedding funds. Then came the letter, innocuous in its crisp envelope, slipped under the door like contraband. From Sarah. "Elliot updates on the baby. And a favor. Call me." My pulse spiked, old guilt flaring. The pregnancy had stabilized. A boy due in February. But complications lingered. Bed rest. Specialists. I'd kept tabs loosely, wiring extras when pleas came, but Nathaniel's trust was too precious to risk again. I burned the letter in the sink that night, ashes swirling down the drain with whispered apologies to no one. But fire leaves smoke, and secrets smolder. December arrived with festive aggression. String lights draping the market stalls, carolers belting Mariah Carey off-key. We decorated the craftsman. Our craftsman now, keys exchanged in a flurry of paperwork, hanging ornaments from thrift stores and his marine days. A tin star from Iraq dangled beside a rainbow bulb I'd insisted on, symbols colliding in glittery harmony. Pride in our space felt revolutionary, a quiet rebellion against the boy who'd once hidden magazines under his mattress. Nathaniel caught me staring at a photo on the mantel. Us at Gasworks Park, kite soaring, his arms slung casual around my shoulders. "Beni footing." "Just grateful," I said, pulling him onto the couch. "For the detour." He smirked, nuzzling my neck. "Detour? This is the main road." L. Holiday parties followed, a whirlwind of eggnog and awkward relatives. At his family's gathering, a boisterous clan of mechanics and nurses in a Queen and Victorian, we fielded questions with practiced ease. "When's the big day?" Aunt Rita asked, pinning me with a wink. "April Fools," Nathaniel quipped, Gonna prank the judge. Laughter rippled, but later, in the powder room, he sagged against the sink. Crowds wear me out. The questions. Kids? Grandkids? Like we're puzzles missing pieces. I cupped his face, thumbs brushing stubble. We fit. That's enough. His eyes softened. Yeah, it is. My own family visit was virtual again. Mom beaming through pixels. Dad thawing with a grunted, "Looks good on you." The ring. But as screen faded, a text pinged. Sarah. Emergency. Hospital. Please. Heart in throat. I drove to Tacoma under cover of night. The freeway a ribbon of headlights. Evergreen Medical Center loomed sterile and accusing. Fluorescent halls echoing my footsteps. She was in a private room, pale against starched sheets, an incubator humming beside her. Elliot, she breathed, hand extended. He came early. NICU. The bills. The infant, tiny, fierce, named Theo, fought for breath through tubes, a fighter in a world too big. Guilt crashed over me, title. What do you need? Everything. I'm drowning. I wrote the check on the spot, draining the last of our cabin fund, rationalizing it as closure. This squares us, Sarah. For good. She nodded, tears spilling. Thank you. For being decent even when. I left before dawn. The Chevy's wipers battling frost, resolve hardening. No more. But dawn brings light, and light reveals tracks. Nathaniel was awake when I slipped in, coffee brewing, suspicion in his stance. Where? Can't sleep. Drove. Lie number 2, bitter as burnt grounds. He studied me, then sighed. Talk to me, L. Soon. I evaded, kissing him good morning. Promise. January bit with icy teeth. The city hunkered under a rare snow blanket. Wedding plans progressed, vows drafted on napkins. A playlist blending Johnny Cash and Troye Sivan. But tension coiled, a loose serpentine belt ready to snap. The unraveling came mid-blizzard, power flickering as I shoveled the drive. My phone buzzed, a bank alert, overdraft. The cabin fund, gone not to be replenished. Panic clawed. I'd meant to transfer from bonuses, but the merger ate them. Nathaniel emerged, bundled in parka, shovel in hand. Help me dig out the truck? We worked in tandem, breaths clouding, silence companionable until he paused. Opened the mail. Wedding vendor info unchet. My shovel struck pavement, jarring. What? Bounced. Like the trust fund we had. His tone was even, but eyes stormed. It's a glitch. I'll fix. Stop. He dropped his tool, snow muffling the thud. I know about Sarah. The hospital runs. The money. Ice colder than the drift gripped me. How? Doesn't matter. What does is you lied. Again. Nate, it was for the baby. A one-time. A pattern, Elliot. Snow swirled, whipping his words. You choose ghosts over us. Every time. I reached for him, but he stepped back, betrayal carving lines in his face. I thought we were past this, but you're still running. From me, from truth. Tears froze on my cheeks. I'm sorry. Let me make it right. Right? He laughed, hollow. Love isn't a repair job you patch and pray holds. It's all or nothing. He turned toward the house, leaving me in the whiteout, shovel limp in numb hands. The door clicked shut. Not slammed, but final as a coffin lid. Days bled into isolation. He moved to Jamie's. Text curt. Need space. I wandered the empty craftsman, ghosts of laughter haunting the halls. Work suffered, pitches garbled. Friends tiptoed, Jamie's check-ins laced with pity. He's wrecked, L. But he still loves you. Fight for it. Valentine's loomed, a cruel joke. I drove to Tacoma unannounced, finding Sarah discharged. Theo home in a bassinet of hope. He's gaining, she said, softer now. Your help saved us. Guilt twisted anew. It was the right thing. Was it? Her gaze sharpened. For who? Back in Seattle, I confronted the mirror. Hollow eyes, the ring mocking from my finger. Enough. I found Nathaniel at the shop, late shift, bay doors agape to the sleet. Hear me out, I pleaded, blocking his path. He crossed arms, weary. What now? The truth, all of it. I spilled. The letters, the visits, the fear of failing him by failing others. I thought protecting you meant shielding from my mess. But it broke us. Silence stretched, sleet hissing on hot metal. Then, you don't get it, Elle. I don't need protecting. I need you all in. I am. Fully. I slid the ring off, holding it out. Not surrender, but offering. Marry me still? Or walk away clean? His breath hitched, hand closing over mine. Ring warm between palms. Idiot, he murmured, pulling me in. Always all in. The kiss was fierce, sleet melting on our skin, absolution in every press. We cried, laughed, planned anew. Cabin postponed, but vows eternal. Spring bloomed tentative, cherry blossoms dusting the courthouse steps. Vows exchanged. In breakdowns and breakthroughs, I choose you. Rings receded, family beaming. Dad in person, Ty askew, mom dabbing eyes. The lesson? Love's shop is open 24/7, but repairs demand honesty, not just hope. Nathaniel and I, battle-scarred and shining, rolled out stronger, Chevy purring into our American ever after. Summer's heat wave baked the Pacific Northwest into submission, turning Seattle's famed drizzle into a distant memory as Nathaniel and I settled into married life. The craftsman, once a fixer-upper of exposed beams and drafty windows, now hummed with the quiet efficiencies of partnership. His tools neatly racked in the garage, my laptop perched on a desk we'd salvaged from a Capitol Hill estate sale. Mornings began with coffee brewed strong, black for him, laced with almond milk for me, and evenings ended with takeout from the faux joint down the block, chopsticks clacking over episodes of The Wire, debating Omar's code like philosophers. Marriage wasn't the fairy tale pivot I'd half feared. It was the grease that smoothed the gears, making the ordinary extraordinary. We'd postponed the cabin indefinitely, funneling savings into a rainy day fund. Irony noted, and instead splurged on micro-adventures. Ferry rides to Bainbridge for cider tastings, or lazy afternoons at Golden Gardens, toes in the sound, his head on my lap as gulls wheeled overhead. You're humming, he observed one July dusk, sprawled on a blanket, sketchpad idle in his lap. He'd taken up drawing again, a hobby from his post-marine drift, capturing urban vignettes in charcoal strokes. Am not. I was, though some old Dylan tune, tangled up in blue, fitting our knotted paths. He propped on an elbow, shading my jawline with his pinky, smudging affection. Happy looks good on you, Harper Hayes. The hyphenated name still tickled, a compromise sealed with laughter over legal forms. Ditto Hayes Harper, though it sounds like a law firm. We chuckled, the sound lapping rhythmic, until his expression sobered. Heard from your folks lately? Dad's emails had trickled to perfunctory forwards, articles on stock tips, recipes for elk stew, bypassing the personal. Mom mediated with calls, her voice a bridge. He's proud, Elliot. Just doesn't say it. The wedding photos I'd mailed sat unacknowledged, though a thank you note arrived weeks later, scrawled in her looping script, "Beautiful day. Love wins." They're thawing, I said, tracing his wedding band, worn smooth from shop work, like permafrost. He nodded, but worry creased his brow. And Sarah? Teo? Pang, familiar as a check engine light. I'd visited once post-wedding, bearing a stuffed orca for the tyke, now chubby-cheeked and gurgling. Sarah seemed steadier, dating a paramedic named Luis, gratitude softening her edges. We're good, I'd assured her. Focus on your family. Nathaniel had accompanied that time, holding Theo with tentative awe, his marine-honed gentleness surfacing. Kid's a tank, he'd said later, voice thick. It eased the old rift, proving my choices hadn't damned us. She's got Luis now. Leaving. I kissed his temple. No more ghosts. Fall crept in with amber leaves carpeting the sidewalks, harvest festivals popping up like mushrooms after rain. We hosted our first married Thanksgiving. Not at Jamie's, but home, turkey brining in the fridge, invite list eclectic. His vet buddies with war stories turned jokes. My colleagues trading fintech jargon for football bets. Sarah and Luis surprisingly included at my insistence. Closure, I told Nathaniel, who eyed me skeptical but supportive. The feast unfolded in chaos and warmth. Uncle Ray belting Sweet Caroline off-key, Theo smearing pumpkin pie on Luis's shirt, Mom and Dad arriving by red-eye, jet-lagged but present. Dad clapped Nathaniel on the back. Good hand with that bird. His version of absolution. While Mom cornered me in the kitchen, flour-dusted apron hugging her frame. He's family now, Elliot. All of you. Tears pricked. I hugged her fierce. Yeah, Mom. We are. As plates cleared and laughter lingered, Nathaniel caught my eye across the room. A private smile bridging the din. In that tableau, mismatched chairs, candle stubs guttering. This was the America I chased. Flawed, fierce, familial in its expansions. Winter whispered warnings, though, in the form of a phone call that shattered the idyll. It was a Tuesday, sleet tapping windows like impatient fingers, when my cell lit with an unknown Boise number. Elliot? It's Pastor Grant from First Presbyterian. My blood chilled. Pastor Grant. Dad's fishing buddy. The man who'd baptized me and buried my secrets with benevolent blindness. Everything all right? Pause. Heavy. Your father's had a stroke. Mild, but he's asking for you. Train or plane? Come soon. The world tilted. Chevy keys biting palm. Nathaniel found me slumped at the kitchen table. Phone clutched like a grenade. Boise? He ventured, hand on my shoulder. Dad. The word cracked. Stroke. He pulled me up, enveloping strong. We'll go. Together. The flight was a red-eye blur, turbulence mirroring my gut. Landing in Boise's crisp dawn felt like time travel. Flatlands golden under frost, air sharp with sagebrush and memory. Dad's hospital room smelled of antiseptic and wilted lilies. Monitors beeping steady as his breaths. He looked smaller, silver hair askew, eyes, once steely, softened by vulnerability. Elliot. His voice rasped, hand trembling in mine. Didn't mean to. Interrupt. I swallowed lump. Wouldn't miss it. Mom hovered, red-rimmed eyes grateful. Nathaniel hung back, respectful, until Dad beckoned. You, the mechanic. Sir. Nathaniel stepped forward, grip firm in handshake. Fixed my boy's ride. Now, fix this family? A ghost of humor. Brave. Working on it, Nathaniel replied, and Dad's chuckle wheezed approval. Recovery was a marathon. PT sessions in a rehab center overlooking the Boise River, where willows wept gold. We stayed in my childhood home, guest room unchanged, twin bed, faded posters of Nolan Ryan and the periodic table. Nights, Nathaniel and I whispered on the creaky floorboards, his presence a bulwark against the past's pull. One evening, as snow dusted the windows, Dad wheeled into the den, Mom trailing with Coco. Sit, he commanded, gesturing the couch. Nathaniel and I obeyed, tension thick as fog. Been thinking, Dad started, mug steaming. Life's short. Strokes remind you. Pause, gaze flicking to Nathaniel. I was wrong. About a lot. Raised you to fit a box. Didn't see you needed room to breathe. Words hung, seismic. Mom nodded, tears silent. We love you, son. Both of you. I gripped Nathaniel's hand, knuckles white. Means everything. Dad leaned forward. That ring, it's right. You're right. Just promise me grandkids someday? Adoption, whatever. This old house needs noise. Laughter broke. Cathartic. Deal, I said. And in that Boise den, walls crumbled, love's lesson etched deeper. Redemption comes not in grand gestures, but quiet admissions. Spring thaw mirrored our return west, Idaho's plains yielding to Washington's greens. Dad progressed, trading sermons for stories, his own hidden doubts, a college crush unconfessed. Letters arrived now, handwritten, including Nathaniel and jokes about that damn Seahawks secondary. Back home, the craftsman welcomed with lilac blooms rioting the fence. We dove into renovations. Kitchen gutted for quartz counters, a nursery corner sketched for future dreams. Boy or girl? Nathaniel mused, paint roller paused. Or pup? I countered, dodging flung dropcloth. Life's engine purred, but curves loomed. A shop expansion beckoned, Nathaniel eyeing a second bay for custom restorations, and my firm dangled a promotion, relocation to Portland whispers. We decide together, we vowed, maps spread like battle plans. Summer solstice brought revelation. A positive test, not mine, but Jamie's surrogate gift. A cousin for Theo, family expanding. Cheers echoed at the announcement picnic, Lake Union glittering under sunset. As fireflies sparked, Nathaniel pulled me aside, box in pocket. Not ring, but keys. To the cabin. Paid in full. Our restart. Tears blurred stars. How? Team effort. Your folks chipped in. Said it's time for new memories. We drove up that weekend, gravel crunching under tires. The A-frame nestled in evergreens like a secret. Inside, wood stove crackling, we danced slow to Coulter Wall, bodies sinking flawless. To lessons learned, he toasted with whiskey. And love's enduring, I added. In America's heartland sprawl, from Boise's stoic plains to Seattle's salty embrace, we'd forged a path pocked but true. Betrayal's shadow faded, replaced by light. The kind that bends but never breaks, illuminating the road ahead. Autumn winds stripped the maples bare, scattering crimson confetti across the cabin's deck as Nathaniel and I fortified against winter's siege. The A-frame, perched on a bluff overlooking Hood Canal, had become our sanctuary. A wooden heartbeat pulsing with the tide's ebb and flow. Mornings, I'd wake to the scent of frying bacon and his off-key rendition of Blackbird. Sunlight slanting through knotty pine walls like golden fingers. Afternoons dissolved into hikes along the shoreline. Boots sinking in tidal mud. Collecting sea glass in jars labeled with dreams. First family trip. Anniversary toast. Marriage's second act felt deeper. Roots delving past surface soil. We'd navigated Dad's rehab via weekly calls. His voice gaining gravelly strength. Caught a trout yesterday. Tasted like victory. Mom sent quilts, embroidered with her initials and ours intertwined. A tactile apology woven thread by thread. Sarah's updates arrived sporadic but warm. Theo's first steps. A backyard barbecue invite we politely declined. Boundaries now as solid as bulkheads. Nathaniel thrived in the expansion, Hayes auto swelling to 3 bays, his custom jobs, 67 Mustangs reborn in electric blue, drawing clients from Tacoma to Everett. You're glowing, I tease, wiping paint from his cheek after a late-night varnish session. Side effect of you, he'd retort, stealing a kiss amid turpentine fumes. But harmony harbors undercurrents, and ours stirred with a whisper from the past. It started innocuous. A LinkedIn ping from Boise, an old colleague named Mark Riley, class of '09, now a realtor in the Gem State. Heard you're hitched. Congrats. Visiting soon? Catch up over brews. I accepted, nostalgia a sly intruder. But when the call followed, Mark's voice boisterous, laced with "Remember that kegger at the ranch?" Guilt flickered. Nathaniel overheard, brow furrowing as I hung up. High school ghost. More like friendly specter. Nothing serious. He nodded, but the seed lodged. November brought Thanksgiving redux, this time at the cabin. Turkey smoked over alder, kin converging in a convoy of Subarus and F-150s. Dad arrived ambulatory, cane tapping defiant. Mom in tow with pies stacked like offerings. Jamie waddled in, belly round with promise, Luis wrangling Theo's boundless energy. Even Sarah made the trek, baby on hip, her presence a testament to mended fences. Toasts circled to health, to horizons. Dad raised glass to Nathaniel. You pulled my boy from the ditch. Here's to the man who knows when to tow. Blushes and claps. Nathaniel's grin wide. Later, by the fire pit, embers winking, Dad pulled me aside. Prou son. Of the life you built. Not the one I scripted. Embrace awkward but real, Idaho frost nipping noses. Love you, Dad. Back atcha. The idle cracked on the drive home. Sleet sheeting the windshield as radio crackled a weather warning. My phone buzzed, Mark again. In Seattle next week. Conference. Dinner. Hesitation. Then, sure. Old times sake. Nathaniel glanced over. Who? Work buddy from Boise. In town. Cool. Invite him over. Vet the ghost. I demurred. Casual catch-up. No need. His jaw tightened, subtle as a seized bolt. All right. Mark arrived midweek, tailored suit clashing with the shop's grit, handshake firm as he eyed Nathaniel's domain. Fancy setup. You always were the tinkerer. We met at a brewpub in Fremont, microbrews foaming amber, the troll sculpture outside grinning conspiratorial. Talk flowed easy. Boise gossip, mutual friends' divorces, his own pending nuptials to a yoga instructor. Life's a highway, he slurred after third pint, clapping my back. You dodged a bullet with Sarah. Found your groove. Yeah, I said, warmth spreading false. Groove's good. But his stories veered to hazier memories. That summer '07 road trip, bonfires and blurred lines. A drunken fumble in a tent I'd buried deep, unease coiled. Mark leaned in, breath beery. You were always the one who got away, L. If things were different. I stiffened, signaling for the check. Different times. Different us. Outside, rain slicking cobblestones, he hugged lingering. Think about it. Call if you need an ear. The Chevy idled blocks away. Nathaniel's text unread. Home safe. Guilt gnawed, a rodent in the wiring. I confessed over midnight tacos, words tumbling greasy. Nothing happened, but vibes were off. Old feelings surfacing. Stupid. He chewed slow, eyes unreadable. Feelings. Not like that. Just nostalgia's poison. Silence stretched, tortilla crunching. Trust's a two-way, L. You met him solo. After last time. I know. Fork down. Swear it's nothing. He sighed, covering my hand. I believe you. But communicate. We're hitched, not psychic. Nod. Relief flooding. Lesson logged. December danced in with lights and largesse. Holiday markets buzzing under Pioneer Square's pergolas. We volunteered at the food bank. Nathaniel hoisting crates with Theo giggling at his heels. Sarah snapping photos. Family portrait, she called, and for once it fit, no qualifiers. Christmas Eve. Snow rare and magical. We strung lights on the craftsman. Ladder wobbling as laughter echoed. Inside, tree aglow with heirlooms. Dad's marine ornament, Mom's crocheted star. A sea glass bauble from our jars. Gifts unwrapped slow. His, a leather-bound journal for my half-baked novel ideas. Mine, a custom tool set, engraved, for the man who fixes souls. New Year's dawned crisp. Resolutions whispered at midnight kiss. More presents, less past. But fate, that capricious mechanic, rev trouble in January's chill. The firm called, promotion confirmed, but hybrid 3 days Portland, remote Seattle. Game changer, my boss enthused. Lead the team. Elation warred with dread. Nathaniel's shop rooted him here. Uprooting meant compromise. I broached over breakfast, pancakes steaming. Big news, but it means travel. He forked syrup. Portland? How much? Weekly. Overnight mostly. Pause, weighing. We could make it work. Airbnb there, or I crash with you. Really? Hope surged. Really? Adventure's our middle name. Kisses sealed it, but whispers of strain lingered. Commutes began. Bullet train south, Willamette views blurring, calls home bridging miles. Miss your snoring, he'd tease. Miss your chili? I'd retort. February faltered with Jamie's delivery. A girl, fierce as her aunt, named Riley Hayes Riley, a hyphenated herald. Hospital vigils bonded us deeper. Nathaniel cradling niece with teary awe. Our turn someday? Someday? I echoed, heart full. Spring equinox brought bloom and blight. Dad's checkup clear, but Mark's email landed like hail. Missed you in Boise. Portland trip soon. Dinner? No strings. Delete, block, clean break. But screenshot lingered. A talisman of temptation resisted. Climax crested in April, anniversary eve. Portland pitch aced. I boarded early. Roses for Nathaniel tucked in briefcase. Homebound train derailed. Literally. Freak slide blocking tracks, stranding me in Kelso fog. Texts flew. Delayed. Love you. Hours stretched, worry mounted. By midnight, Nathaniel's call pierced static. Where are you? Stuck. Coming. Jamie's here. Emergency. Heart seized. What? Riley fever spiked. NICU again. Raced via rental. Tires screaming I-5. Arriving dawn to hospital hush. Nathaniel paced lobby, hollow-eyed. False alarm. Stabilizing. Relief buckled me, he caught, embrace iron. Scared me. Us too. Voice muffled in my coat. In the room, Jamie pale but defiant, Luis vigilant, Riley tiny under monitors. Thanks for coming, she whispered. Family, I said simple. That scare recalibrated. Promotion paused. Remote full-time. Priorities, I told the firm. They agreed, flexibility the new currency. Summer solstice circled back. Cabin calling. We loaded the Chevy. Cooler stocked. Kayak strapped. Theo and Riley in tow. A caravan of chaos. Shores lapped. Bonfire crackled. Stories spun under Milky Way. As stars wheeled, Nathaniel beside me. Hand laced, I marveled. From breakdown to this bounty, love's repairs endure. The canoe sliced through Hood Canal's glassy surface. Paddles dipping synchronized as laughter rippled from the trailing kayak. Theo's squeals punctuating Jamie's mock-serious paddling lessons. Sun dappled the evergreens lining the shore. A canopy of emerald filtering light into mosaic patterns on the water. Nathaniel, in the bow, twisted to grin back, sweat beating his temples. Flannel rolled to elbows. Keep up, squirts. Elliot's gaining. I powered a stroke, muscles burning sweet. The A-frame shrinking astern like a fond farewell. This was our ritual now. Annual escapes etching deeper grooves in the marriage's tread. 3 days unplugged, kin included, rebuilding bonds in nature's indifferent embrace. Lunch ashore on a pebbled beach. Sandwiches unwrapped, Riley gurgling in a portable playpen, Theo constructing castles from driftwood. Sarah lounged nearby, novel in lap, Luis sketching tide pools with Theo's crayon set. This beats Boise basements, she admitted, passing grapes. High praise, I quipped, but gratitude swelled. Her inclusion, once fraught, now flowed natural, co-parenting not blood, but choice. Afternoon kayaks yielded to siesta, hammocks swaying as Nathaniel and I napped entwined, his heartbeat steady under palm. Waking to gulls' cries, I traced his jaw, stubble rasping. Penny, just this perfect imperfection. He stirred, eyes cracking open blue.
Seppi postnop Elliot.
My favorite. Dusk bonfire summoned Esmores and stories. Dad regaling marine misadventures, Mom's tales of 70s Boise dances, Nathaniel's shop legends, the 72 Plymouth he resurrected from a junkyard, owner weeping at the reveal. Laughter crested waves, but as embers died, Dad beckoned me to the water's edge, cane planted firm. Sun, he started. Gaze on horizon where sun bled orange. Stroked me into clarity. Regrets pile like snowdrifts if you don't shovel. I nodded, shivers unrelated to chill. Learned that the hard way. About you us I buried my own. College, that boy from the dorms. Wrote poems, never sent. Church said sin. I said safe. Revelation landed soft, revolutionary. Dad. He waved it off. Not seeking pity, just truth. You're braver. Live loud for me too. Embrace salt-stung, waves lapping approval. Will. Night fell star-punctured. Tents zipped, whispers weaving dreams. Nathaniel's arm anchored me, breath even. Heard you too. Proud. Damn right. Fall forwarded to Urban Pulse. Seattle reclaiming with craft fairs and football fever. Nathaniel's shop buzzed. A cherry-red Corvette his latest triumph. Client tears of joy standard. My writing bloomed. Journal entries morphing to short stories. Submitted to lit mags with Nathaniel's edits penciled fierce. One crisp October Saturday, rejection email pinged. Close, but followed by acceptance, local queer anthology. My piece on grease-stained grace. Launch reading at Elliott Bay Books. Crowd intimate. Friends, family virtual from Boise. Nathaniel front row beaming. Post-reading, wine flowing, he pulled me into stacks. Kiss fervent. Told you. Words as wrench. Couldn't without you. Thanksgiving anchored tradition. Craftsman groaning under turkey bounty. Guests spilling to porch. Dad videoed in. Cane swapped for carving knife. Mom's pies pixel perfect. Toasts to abundance. But Jamie's news tempered joy. Riley's scans clear. But monitoring. Hugs fierce. Unspoken fears shared. We've got this. Nathaniel murmured to her. Hand on belly. Another on horizon. Winter wove wreaths and worries. Holidays heightened by Riley's checkups. Clear scans brought carols, but vigilance shadowed joy. New Year's, we clinked cider under time's square ball drop projected on wall. Resolutions refined. Presence amplified. Fears voiced. January thawed with promotion redux. Full remote. Team lead title sans travel. Boss approved. I announced over pancakes. Nathaniel's whoop echoing. Champagne breakfast. February frosted fragile. Riley's fever recurred. Hospital lights harsh again. Vigil extended. Nathaniel's hand mine through nights. Jamie's gratitude tear-streaked. Your rocks. Family, we chorused. Spring surged resilient. Cherry blossoms defiant. Anthology royalties trickled. Enough for cabin upgrades, solar panels glinting eco-promise. Dad visited. Flights funded by his pension. Touring shop with boyish awe. Like a garage museum. History and horsepower, Nathaniel explained. Dad nodding sage. Mom's quilt show at Boise Fair earned blue ribbon. We cheered virtual, her beaming. Threads of us all. Summer solstice summoned cabin again. Fleet expanded. Theo paddling solo. Riley toddling sands. Bonfire confessions circled. Sarah's engagement to Luis, finally free. Jamie's second ultrasound. Boy this time. As constellations wheeled, Nathaniel and I slipped to bluff. Blanket spread. Meteor shower streaking. 5 years since the shop. He mused, head on shoulder. Feels like yesterday's breakdown. And tomorrow's breakthrough. Kiss slow, stars witnesses. But autumn's amber hid ambush. Email from publisher. Anthology sequel invite. Deeper dives. Elation, then excavation. Stories of betrayal's bite. Love's slow solder. Reading loomed November. Promotion coinciding with Dad's milestone birthday. Boise bound. Anthology in pocket, we landed to fanfare. Airport pickup by Mark. No, wait, old ghosts banished. Instead, Pastor Grant, beaming reformed. Birthday bash at family ranch. Hay bales seating. Bonfire roaring. Dad, robust now, toasted. To Elliot, writer, husband, son who taught this old dog new graces. Tears, cheers. Nathaniel's arms steel. Reading next eve. Boise library packed. Curious locals. Queer allies migrated. Words poured. I took my car to the shop, but it turned out I was the one being taught a lesson. Gasps, nods, applause thundering. Post-glow. Dad clasped my shoulder. That's you, son. Unbroken. Winter wrap gentle, holidays hybrid. Cabin Christmas. Virtual Boise cheers. Resolutions. Expand. Adoption papers filed tentative. Dreams documented. Climax crested New Year's gale. Storm lashing cabin as power flickered. Generator hummed, but Nathaniel winced, hand to chest. Indigestion? No, EKG at ER confirmed mild arrhythmia. Stress echo of his own buried strains. Hospital hush, monitors beeping. I held vigil, guilt's ghost whispering. My fault. Pushing too hard. He squeezed weak. Team, remember? Fixed together. Discharge brought rest. Shop paused. My work lightened. Therapy resumed. Solo for him, couples for us. Unpacking marine scars, my Boise baggage. Spring healed. Paddles resuming calmer waters. Adoption waitlisted, but hope buoyant. Summer's solstice bonfire burned brighter, toasts to endurance. As waves lapped, Nathaniel's hand in mine, lesson crystallized. Love's not destination, but the drive. Potholed, panoramic, profoundly ours.